Hey guys, Ramsey here, and welcome to the very first live stream on my channel. And we are joined by my good friend, Al Manzano. Al, thanks for joining me, brother. How are you?
Thank you. I'm fine. How are you, Ramsey?
Oh man, it's a joy to be here doing what I love most, which is talking about fragrance. And if I don't know how to work the live stream, you guys will have to forgive me. I'm gonna try to multitask here. So basically, the whole idea of this live stream was, if you guys caught my Russian Adam interview a couple days ago, almost a week ago now, that kind of kicked this whole process off. And I signed up for StreamYard, and I could have done the Russian Adam interview like this on a stream, but I didn't want anything to interrupt him because, you know, I thought it was a very important topic with friends like me and Al, where we're just kind of laid back. You know, I figured it would be good to do our first stream where we could interact with folks. So I appreciate everyone joining this impromptu stream. It looks like we've got 14, 15 people here out of the blue already. So Al, why don't you, I mean, people probably know you from floating around the fragrance community, but tell them a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, I was born 72 years ago in San Francisco, and I lived there in my early adulthood in the Bay Area. And I was exposed to various dance and music venues growing up and living in San Francisco. So I used to shop in the city, and obviously I got into colognes probably in my mid-20s. So I'm a product of the 60s.
That's
I'm
it.
71. I'm 71 presently, but soon to be 72.
Well, you look about 50. You look in your late 40s, so I know you take good care of your body. So one of the reasons, so me and Al basically formed a friendship when he found my channel months and months ago, and we like to talk shop on some of the vintages. So if you guys know my, you know, vintage taste and the fragrances that me and my brother Rich Mitch across the pond, we love the 60s, 70s, 80s, early 90s fragrances, but we weren't really, I mean, I was born in 85, so we weren't really around wearing fragrances in that time. So I thought it would be interesting to get a first-hand report, let's say, from someone who lived during that time. We can talk shop on a bunch of different vintage fragrances. I pulled a bunch of them out. And why don't we get into the day? Because when we were backstage just kicking it a second ago, you told me that we are linked by scent today with Portos.
I did not tell you I was going to wear this, and you did not tell me that you were going to wear that.
That's right.
Correct? Okay.
It was completely random.
Yes.
So tell us, Portos was your signature scent for a while in the early 80s, right?
Yes, but the scent that I wore, because I was talking about that with my wife last night, the main scent that I had for many, many years was gray flannel. When all the 80s fragrances came out, I stayed with gray flannel because, you know, in the 70s and the 80s, Ramsey, selecting a fragrance to apply when leaving the house for a night became part of the experience. Do you understand? It all became part of the experience. And going out for me to the clubs with the music and dance, so often now my scent memory is intertwined with music memories. Okay. I saw ELO. I saw Prince. I saw the Grateful Dead. I came from the 60s. Disco, what you're listening to now, the electronic music came from disco. Disco had real acoustic instruments. What you have now is electronic music. Same thing with fragrances. What you have now is an approximation. What we had then was different. Not better, but just different. What you have out now is, I love the fragrance that they have out now. And some of the old ones I love too, Ramsey. But since to me, they're only an approximation, I wear these and buy these for nostalgia. That's why I purchase fragrance. That's my main reason. Not for going out in the evening and dancing. That was then.
Right.
But fragrance was important. When I picked out Gray Flannel, it was a blind buy. Portos was a blind buy. I knew nothing about notes, fragrance notes, until I met Ramsey. When I saw your channel, young man, I was watching other people's channels once in a while, but I saw, it may have been your first or second show, because you had your cabinet behind you with all your fragrances. And my wife saw me. I go, I got to see who the hell this guy is. He has a shitload of stuff back over there. And then you said 600, and then you said, this is just one half of my collection. And I said, oh my God. So
Yes,
I've been
I'm a
watching
slight
you ever
addiction.
since, and learning. I'm learning. I'm a 71-year-old man learning from a 30-plus-year-old guy about fragrance notes,
We're
about
all
the
in it
history of
together.
fragrance, about the perfumers that I knew nothing about.
That's it.
So
Well, most people don't know about the perfumers. I feel very lucky to have got to interview Russian Adam, and then I don't know if you saw the
absolutely.
video where I mentioned Nathalie Lorson sent me an email, and that felt really good. That someone whose work I reviewed reached out to me. That felt great. But let's talk about notes, because there is a note in Portitos. Now, by the way, if you guys don't know Portitos, it is I hate this camera like this, but it is an eau de cologne concentration. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it is an eau de cologne that just absolutely annihilates current eau de parfums, extraits, all that stuff that they preach nowadays and sell for massive amounts of money. There is an ingredient in here, Castorium, which we don't get nowadays in modern fragrances, real Castorium. Tell us about the experience of wearing Portitos from the 80s.
I can't explain it. I'm lost for words. Uh, it was my introduction to to the nightlife, to everything. I was a bashful guy. I didn't do drugs. I didn't drink, and I saw what happened in the 80s, but I loved to dance. And I love women. I love to dance. It was dancing and romancing. Everybody had a beast mode. It didn't matter what you wore, Ramsey. We never had a discussion on silage or projection. No, 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 no. Everything was beast mode. Everything.
That's right.
And yes, Ramsey, I will admit to you, yes, we did overspray, but my generation didn't spray. Nobody's looking. I'm just going to put a little bit on of Portos, just a
That's
little
it.
bit. Okay.
I think you missed the
Maybe,
spot.
yeah. The difference is 3 to 4 hours before I would leave my apartment or my place of residency, because everything was, I mean, could you imagine spraying this and going out in the car with your friends?
Yes,
You're going to lose your friends. No,
that's
and
it.
that was it. Everything was very beast mode. What I wanted to ask you, with all the absolutely stunning fragrances that you have, Roja Dove, all of them, Hermes, which I wore. I won't even tell you when I wore Bellamy, but Bellamy was probably at the top. Eau Sauvage was probably one of my first colognes at 27 that I wore.
Yes.
But what is your attraction to these fragrances? If you have fragrances that run, I have my answer: $400-500 fragrances. Yet Ramsey and I are talking about Lapidus pour Homme, Altamir, Polo. Why do people now, we're 2 generations apart, I want to know, why is still this talked about?
Okay, so you once told me that you spent $1,000 on 2 bottles of this
$485 each.
Fetish, Roja's Fetish, right? And I actually do like this fragrance. This is a good fragrance. You didn't like it because you thought it was too smoky, right?
Scent memory, Ramsey. I want to answer the question. Scent memory. When
Yes.
I opened it up, I waited 3 weeks to get the 2 bottles.
Right?
That's $900. I don't care. It doesn't matter the price.
Right.
I put it on, and my wife says, "So what do you think? I mean, you've heard the hype. Roja Dove, Guerlain. It reminds me when I was an altar boy," I told my honey. "It reminds me when I was an altar boy in St. Malachy's School in Rantoul, Illinois, when I was in Catholic school, the incense that they burned in church.
The
That's what
incense,
this
yeah.
reminds me of. I need to send this back. This is disgusting. I was completely turned off. I was disappointed also, but yes. No.
Yes. Well, the reason
I
I
haven't
bring
spilled
that
the other
up,
Rosia, but
so
it was not.
you have experience with some of the expensive Roja fragrances, and the reason we're still talking about stuff like Portitos, I think
Why?
even spending the big money and getting the highest quality ingredients that a perfumer using modern materials can do, they can't replicate what they did with something like Portitos. The materials are different, the restrictions are different, and you can smell it if you've actually taken the time
Oh my
and
God.
you've worn some of these vintages. I mean, I'm sitting here, I'm looking at the top 100 video that I did, and I put Portitos. So this is only probably the third or fourth time I've worn it. This is it. I mean, I got this little 10 ml. Now, if you know the story, though, this is all I have left. Rich has a bottle for me that should be coming later in the year. So I'm not too sad that my 10 ml bottle is done. But you can smell the Castorium in a way that even modern animalic fragrances, like there's a new brand, we're going to do an unboxing later. I've got an unboxing for you guys too, of a brand I've been really getting into called Parfum d'Empire, and he uses animalics fantastic. I love the way he does his animalics, but it's modern stuff. It's you can tell it's modern synthetics, and there's nothing wrong with that. I love the way
What kind of the animalics that he uses? What, for example, what's one note of animalic that he used, for example?
he uses a Hyraceum note in Must Tonkin, and he uses civet in a couple of the fragrances and stuff like that. But even the civet that he's using, it's different from if you pull out an old bottle of Koros, right? And Charles of the Ritz Koros, right? It's different. It's not the same. They're not getting the essence of what the vintage perfumes. I mean, it was a time where for something like Portitos or Koros, they weren't doing market testing. They didn't go to different countries and say, hey, what do you guys think of this or that? They just put out a fragrance that the perfumer loved. And the if you guys don't know, I pulled up the tagline for Portos. Do you remember what the tagline was in the advertisements?
The devil's scent.
Let's
The
see if
scented
I can
devil.
find it. It was 3 words: virile, assertive, convincing. That was
I
the
sent that to
tagline for
you, but it was
Portos.
in French, and I translated it into English. But I read it in French. Yes, that's what it was. But
That's
look
it.
at the words. Pay attention to the words. Look, convincing.
Yeah, they never would advertise a masculine fragrance like that today. Everything is sterilized. Everything is unisex. Everything is, it was just a different time back then. I think I really appreciate that. You know what I mean?
I think one thing I've been told by people who were in the perfume industry many years ago, and one friend of mine asked me recently, have you ever heard of any of the enthusiasts, the people who review perfumes on YouTube? Do they ever talk about their wonderful synthetic experience? And I go, what? Synthetic experience. That's what everyone is having. So he's very old school. He says that what's in here, and this is great stuff. It's a very good blend of fragrance, but the civet is not, it's civetone.
Yes.
So it's not natural. I don't know. This didn't mean anything to me. Castorium, to say is not, I don't know. But I know that the fragrances before had, they were detectable. Ramsey, we can go on and on. Fragrances that we wore in the 70s and 80s were detectable, even if it was Aquavelva after 24 hours. That is non-existent now. 24 hours. I told you about my father about English leather. He'd leave the house to go to the clinic, and he just wore a little bit in his, it would smell when he would come back from lunch. The upstairs house and the bedroom was smelling like English leather. It was,
That was his
what can
scent.
I
That was
say?
his scent. English
And this
leather.
was 1959, 1960. 1959, my dad was always, that was his only scent that he ever wore, was English leather.
Have
That's
you
why I never.
smelled anything that compares to Portos?
I've been looking for Ramsey. I've been looking many years. I've bought 4 or 5 times vintages. Disappointed the majority of the time because of the longevity. It's great, but it's not there. It's great, but it's not there. But this right here is pretty good. But yeah, I have. If you can find something that even comes close. So they say like Bentley Intense, which I have a bottle of, say is similar
No.
to Fahrenheit. That's what they say. I'm not an authority. Have you smelt that before?
Family ferment intense in Fahrenheit? No, I wouldn't say that's true.
Okay, neither would I, but I read that, so I thought I'd try the bottle, and I go, no, this is not it. I got this from Anush. This
Ah,
right here.
yes. Well, if you
Yeah.
got it from the news, you're getting good stuff because he's the
Now remember,
godfather.
when I bought this bottle, when I purchased this bottle, I deliberately first purchased the bottle from Christian Dior. I paid $100. And then I told my wife, and she goes, "What are you going to do now?" I go, "Well, I want to, this Canadian company, I want to order a bottle from him. He says he has something that has a batch code. It was a tester." So I bought 2 bottles. So when I got the bottle from Enchanté and I had the bottle of Christian Dior from Christian Dior, I opened both up. So I opened up the one from Christian Dior first, put it on, waited for about 30 minutes or so, completely disgusted. Waited another hour, then I opened up the thing from your buddy, and I was literally blown away. I go, this stuff, it's not the old stuff, but it sure smells like 1988 from a company in Canada. Go figure.
Have you smelled this? Aigner Silver. I talked about it on my channel a month or two ago.
Yes, you did. You got a few bottles of that.
I got 10 bottles of these, and they turned out to be
No
10
good.
mLs, not 5 mLs like the guy
And
told me. So I got a little bit of a steal. This is somewhat close to Portos,
no way.
but it's getting harder and harder to find. Just like Portos, it's discontinued, but it's an 80s baby. So it has you know what I just realized? I don't have anyone manning the wrench. I gotta block these some of these crazy comments coming in. I need to give one of you guys the wrench in the comments. You'll have to show me how to do that later, Rich. So yeah, this is close to Portos.
Is that right? Does it have Castorium in it?
I believe it does, yeah, but it's actually I think I said it was kind of like an easier version to wear. You know, like Portos has that Castorium that I'm loving. I'm wearing it today, and it's going to be 100 degrees here in Texas, and
Doesn't matter, baby.
doesn't matter.
You're wearing the greatest fragrance ever created, and nobody's ever reviewed it on YouTube. That's all I have to say. And I'm a nobody. I've never seen anybody but you do somewhat of review and acknowledgement of this fragrance.
Really? No one
Yes,
talked
sir.
about it. Yeah, there's Castorium, there's Labdanum,
Okay.
there's frankincense. There's actually a lot of notes that are close to Portos. They play in
When
the
was
same
it launched?
84. So it might have been even inspired by Portos. Now here's
Is it a
something
French or Italian cologne?
Etienne Aigner, he is an interesting cat. He was born in Slovenia, but he was kind of all over the place. I think he ended up settling down in Paris, ultimately.
You mean to tell me that bottle of Statement is made by the same company?
Yes.
You're kidding me.
Statement
Really?
is an Etienne Aigner. Yep. There's a couple good ones. One of my subscribers from Germany, Heinke, sent me a bottle of a fragrance called Explosive for women.
I have it.
You have this? It's fantastic.
I bought this almost 3 years ago.
I'm a huge
I
fan.
bought it. I knew it was a woman's perfume, but I bought that, and I bought Corbershaw.
I'm glad you're able to appreciate the women's sense as well. There's one that I talk about a lot, and it's this. Look at the bottle. It's called this is called Azuree, Azuree, by Estee Lauder, but it was made by the same guy who did Aramis, the original Aramis. Bernard Chant. So he did this.
You mean this?
That did Aramis.
Yes.
And then he did Azure. And what's interesting about Bernard Chant is, even though one's targeted to men and one's targeted to women, you can definitely see the interplay between the two. So even then, there wasn't this hard line. I mean, if a guy wore this back then, he'd probably blend right in. If a girl wore this, which is crazy thinking that, this is one of the most masculine fragrances of all time, Aramis. But he was playing with that blending of the targeted towards the genders even back then.
How about Youth Dew? Have you heard of that?
Oh yeah, I'm a huge Youth Dew fan. Youth Dew smells very similar to Opium for women.
Okay.
Yeah, Opium was kind of like modeled after Youth Dew.
Amazing.
It is, isn't it?
Amazing.
But that just goes to show. I mean, it goes to show how the perfume industry will kind of borrow from each other, even over time. You know what I mean? It's kind of one of those things. Sorry, I'm really backed up on the comments, guys. I'm not used to multitasking here. Naked Sex Guy is becoming a valued member of our community. Love it. It's crazy seeing you in the stream, Mr. Smelly.
Oh, Mr. Smelly's on there. Oh,
he's in the comments lurking.
Yes, I know him very well.
So tell us, whenever you went out and you applied your fragrances, what was popular back then? Were people wearing things like Portitos, Polo Green, or what were they wearing?
Polo Green, a lot of people were wearing it. That was worn. And Kuros, I smell a lot of that, and Halston as well.
Halston Z14?
Yeah.
This is discontinued now.
Yes. I got this from Enchanté, man.
That's it.
This is beautiful, man. It's a splash. I don't know what to say.
Fantastic.
It's fantastic. Absolutely.
And he was a big partier, right? Wasn't he famous for going to the nightclubs? And
who's this?
Halston himself.
Yes, probably. Did you see when YSL launched Opium?
Yes, Opium? Tell me.
Have you read? Oh, it's a long story. When it was launched, New York City, Truman Capote was on a yacht. Mick Jagger and his girlfriend were doing cocaine when it was launched, and they were launching the perfume. You got to read about the launching of Opium. Will blow your mind.
I had no idea.
He spent that kind of money to launch that particular perfume. You'll laugh your head off what he did.
I knew that just the name Opium was controversial back then because, they were naming a perfume after a drug, that kind of thing.
If you went inside with your wife, in New York City, you and your wife went in and she wore Opium, they would ask you and her to leave. The Chinese restaurant in New York City would say, you cannot come inside here if you're wearing that. And you can read about why. Oh yeah, they did. Well, yeah. You can read about it. It had a reputation,
I knew that was true for Giorgio Beverly Hills. This is the masculine version, but they had a feminine version that I know some restaurants actually banned people wearing because it was so strong. But I didn't know that about Opium.
Yeah, or quite possibly that may have been it. That was launched in '81. I believe.
Opium, the original, 77.
No, the other one, the right, okay.
Oh, Giorgio for Men?
That is correct.
Yeah, Giorgio for Men, 81. Let's see. I'm not 100% sure.
It's 81.
It's 84.
84?
Yep.
They had it in 81. The guy opened up his shop in Beverly Hills. It was selling before Farrah Fawcett got a hold of it. It was selling for $150 an ounce. And now I can buy it at Fragrance X for $20. So my question is that It still has the name. So it's the same fragrance, correct? Obviously, it's not the same fragrance. So the names were
That's a
sold.
great point.
Licenses were sold. I mean,
Yeah,
I mean, we know that YSL has nothing to do with this. L'Oreal does, but not Yves Saint Laurent has nothing to do with Kuros now.
not
Correct?
anymore. And there's even rumors that it's discontinued altogether.
Well, that too, but it's been what we didn't know about is it's the reformulation.
Yes.
The reformulation. I do not know what year that occurred, but I'm thinking that 1984, Ramsey, and 85. I don't know, something happened with gray flannel, and I don't know. I thought I was just bored with it, but I think that's when they started really messing up with it. It was not the same, and
Yeah.
it was a total turnoff for me.
It changed hands multiple times. Actually, I sent this to Rudy yesterday because he was trying to hunt down a vintage bottle. But the bottom of my gray flannel and bowling green that I got from Enchante shows distributor Jacqueline Cochran.
I have those.
Yes.
I have those Jacqueline Cochran. I had one. Yeah, my wife bought me an antique. Yeah, that was terrible. But I bought another bottle that was in the second, not Cochran, but the next people who took it over, and it was a lot better. Both of them were supposedly vintage, but yes, Jacqueline Cochran would probably be your first iteration, correct?
I think there was maybe one before it, but yeah, it's changed
Yes.
hands multiple times. Every time it changes, it seems like there's reformulation. So that's the crux of the vintage hunters. That's their whole standard operating procedure, is finding specific fragrances before reformulation. By the way, Duncan, I left your comment up because I have super fragrance on the way. So you don't have to send me any. Coming soon. Maxims for home. Very nice. But yes, getting back to your point, Al, about if this was $150 in 1984, how are they selling it for $20 now?
You tell me.
That's it. What
It
are
has
they
the name
doing?
on it. Wait a minute. It has the name Giorgio. This has the name of Fruyo. Let me ask another question. My wife wants to know, ask Ramsey, how do they reissued a discontinued fragrance every other month? How is that done? A 1980, how is that sold right now? How do they do that? And nobody ever comments on Fruyo. What is it?
I don't think they're reissuing the fragrance. I think Fragrance X or fragrancebuy.ca is finding old stock in some warehouse somewhere. That's the only thing that makes sense. Unless you think that Jacques Bogart is secretly making these and selling them as if they're vintage, nothing else makes sense.
No, this was not purchased as a vintage bottle from Enchante. I'm sorry, Fragrance by Canada. This was not purchased as a vintage bottle. Why is it being sold?
It's been discontinued for a long time, though. So if you purchased it, it is a vintage bottle. But there's older vintage bottles. Here, I'll show you. So the older Jacques Bogart bottles. So this is a vintage of One Man Show. It has that 80. It has 85 degrees right there in the middle. 85% volume. The newer bottles of Bogart don't have it.
Okay.
So if you have a vintage and an older bottle, it will actually have that 85% or 88 or whatever. Each formula for each version can be different, but that's one way to tell whether you have a vintage or a newer bottle. But for something like this that's been discontinued for a decade, everything's old. I think you're just getting like leftover stock because no one's wearing stuff like this. I love this. I bought 6 bottles of this. And you did too.
No.
What'd you buy, 10?
I bought 14 bottles of this. Wrong again, Ramsey. 14.
That's it.
Right. Now, when I spray it, I hope you're laughing with me, not at me. When I
Absolutely.
spray it, I don't spray it here. When I spray it and I put it on, okay, after a few minutes, yes, very old school, but that completely dissipates. It doesn't penetrate the skin. It doesn't blend in with my body chemistry. Did you see the little article that I sent you from National Institutes of Health?
I saw it, but I haven't got a chance to
Yeah,
watch it yet.
it would be about a 4-hour read. Take a look at that about sensation. And Aphrodite, she's in those comments too. Everything you say, Ramsey, they say it there. I mean, fragrances before. I mean, the people who was the perfumer of Portos, by the way? Did we ever learn who the perfumer was? Because I have not been able to.
Well, I'll give you a little bit of a history lesson. Hang on one moment. I'm going to grab a bottle. Are you familiar with this brand, Marbert? Have you ever heard of Marbert? I think he's going to get his bottles, boys and girls.
Ramsey?
Okay, thanks.
Excuse me, I apologize. I had to step away. You mean this?
That's it. Very
Okay.
good. You have one. I love this fragrance, by the way. But the reason I bring up Marbert is because Marbert owned the house of Balenciaga until
Yes,
about
they did.
1985. And then the house of Balenciaga got sold to none other than Jacques Bogart.
That is correct.
And Jacques Bogart, when they bought the house of Balenciaga, discontinued Portos in 85, basically, is what happened.
Yeah, 3 cheapers and they decide to drop Portos. What a big mistake. But
Insane. And
stupid
then
mistake.
I think to make matters worse, Aramis put out a fragrance called Portos.
Where the hell did you find that?
If you look up Portos on one of the search engines like Parfumo or something like that, or Base Notes, you should find 2 Portos, one Balenciaga, one Aramis. And to confuse matters even further, Aramis put their Portos out in 1985, the same year that the one we love got discontinued. So it just turned into this whole confusion thing, and they mishandled it, obviously. The House of Balenciaga mishandled a lot of things, but getting rid of Portos, getting rid of Balenciaga Pour Homme, getting rid of all of their masculines, I think was a huge mistake. They could bring them back today to massive fanfare, although I don't think they can. That's the whole point of this conversation, is I don't think they can bring this back. That's why this juice is so special.
Yeah,
this is amazing.
When I used to visit Jacqueline's Perfumery, which started out in the mid 70s, the owners were French. It was a French perfumery. I believe it may have been 85 or 86. I was trying to buy Portos, and I think I bought a bottle. I don't know where, someplace, but I went inside Jacqueline's to buy, I think, Captain or one of the other fragrances, and he almost sounded upset. This old man, the owner's wife, the owner's husband, because she was the owner. He goes, "What you're buying there is false. It's fake." I go, "My bottle of Portos? Yes, it's discontinued." And he just went on, and he had exclusive relationships with the distributors in France. And he said, "This is no good anymore. This is an imposter." And hey, I don't know. But even then, these fragrances in 86 were already tampered with. They were already watered down or reformulated or whatever, I think it was, mergers and acquisitions ruined everything.
Yeah.
I mean, you're well read. I read the stuff that you read about Aramis that you just told me about. I read that 5 years ago or longer, about Aramis 19, all of that stuff. Yeah, I read, but this right here, Kouros, it's maintained its longevity. I don't know why. Why is that? Do you know?
You mean on the market?
Yeah, it's still popular.
I think YSL and L'Oreal were just a little hesitant to completely nix something so influential. I think 81 is probably my favorite year in fragrances, because there was Kouros. There was also stuff like this. Here, I'm going to reach down and grab these. This came out in 81 too. Antaeus. This is a Castorium Bomb.
With all due respect, I sent Fetish back to Roja Dove. I sent what you just held up. I sent both bottles back. Well, one of them back to Chanel. Bought
Yeah.
those from Chanel. Yeah. You may be laughing at me. All these I bought like $6,000 worth of fragrances a year and a half ago, and I dumped all of it. A lot of that stuff, old stuff, was just no good. I was completely disappointed. I mean, I was looking forward to Antaeus. I told my wife, hey, I haven't worn this for years. And when I purchased, and I'm going to go straight to Chanel. I'm not going to mess around here. And I bought 2 bottles that came in. I said, no, it was terrible. Probably what you have is you have a vintage, I'm sure, correct?
Yeah, I've got 2. I mean, the way to tell is the silver cap. So if you bought it from Chanel recently, your cap was probably black. Which, you know, the thing about Chanel is they don't make bad fragrances. I mean, if you got a bottle of Antaeus, it was probably decent. It was pretty good, but it's lost its soul. It's not the Antaeus. You know, it's missing the, you know, Castorium gives this like leathery animalic twang to it, you know, that really makes you, like with Portitos, that's one of the things I love so much about it is that leathery Castorium. It's so leathery, it could almost be confused for like a leather chiffre, like Aramis or Azure. But
that's with Castorium. That's with Castorium. Okay.
Yes,
And
that's it.
you love leather, right?
Correct.
Then obviously, what's your thoughts on this thing then?
I like it. I like Nietzsche. I like Knitze 10. I'm a fan.
It's a big bomb. I mean, when I bought it, I didn't know what it was. I just bought
Yes.
a small bottle, and I from Pasteur. This was like 2 or 3 years ago. And my wife said, "What the hell do you have on?" I go, "It's Knitze 10." She goes, "Wow, you got to tone that down, Al."
I think that's one of the first leathers that uses that isobutyl quinoline note. IBQ they call it. I think I'm not
whatever the hell it is. It's in there.
Yeah, it's in there. It's a big
explosive.
It's a big Baroque leather from the 1920s. I think Francois Coty was actually the perfumer, the original perfumer of Knitze 10. But I'll show you. I as much as I love Knitze 10, I've discovered something I like even better. I'm going to bend down again and grab another bottle. So this is my Knitze 10 alternative. It's called Goma by Etro. This is the vintage eau de cologne. And they did eau de colognes just like Portitos is an eau de cologne. And it lasts longer than current modern eau de parfums, of course. Rich is actually procuring me a vintage. Thank you, Rich. And an even older bottle than this. This is the first reformulation. There's an even older splash bottle that Etro did. But this is almost like taking Knitze 10, which I haven't loved, and improving it, making it even better for me. I love what they did. The perfumer here, by the way, is the great, I believe it is Edward Fleischier. Let me see. Goma, Etro, Eau de Cologne. Let's see. It's Edward Fleischier. So you got a top name perfumer. Fantastic job. This house is very underrated. But this is why I love vintage, because you don't have to go spend $500 on a Roja fragrance. You know, is this a good fragrance? Yes, it is. I think it's a good fragrance. But you can spend an eighth of the price, you know what I mean? A tenth of the price, and get something that uses ingredients that even if Roja wanted to, he can't do because of the restrictions. You know what I mean? Unless he's someone like Russian Adam, who is outside of the system. You know, he's not IFRA compliant. So that's the whole love of vintage, I think. And there's so many fragrances to discover. So Duncan was asking, he'd like to hear more about the Aquitos poison story. Are you familiar with that story, Al?
Aquitos, I used to wear that and purchase Alain Delon, that Royal Copenhagen. I bought all those regularly years ago.
Let me grab my bottle. Hang on. Did you get Aquitos yet, Eugene? All right, so here's Aquitos.
There it is.
And here's poison. Now,
okay.
The story is that these two were fighting for a spot at Dior. This was created originally to be poison for women, and it just lost out to the formulation that ended up winning. So when it lost the brief, Alain Delon swept in and said, I'll take that. And he took it and he turned it into a masculine fragrance. So he took something that was supposed to be marketed for women and he just marketed it towards men, kept the formula exactly the same. But because it said for men on the bottle, they, men loved it everywhere. And it had that, late 80s animalic, there is a huge jasmine note in here, this indolic jasmine, big leather, muskiness. They were playing with this idea of adding these crazy florals and stuff to men's fragrances in the late 80s. And this is probably one of my favorite, the spicy floral, woody, leathery, musky thing that was supposed to be poison for women. But, if you're a guy and you don't know that story and you just grab this and buy it, that just goes to show why gender in perfumery it's ridiculous. You just wear whatever you want, If you're still
should be ungendered.
Up on that.
Yeah.
Don't let it stop you from trying new things is what I would say.
What's your favorite women's perfume? That you
I think my favorites would be stuff like Shalimar or Opium I mentioned. There's a Jean Patou fragrance called Ma Liberté, which I absolutely love. That's another under the radar fragrance that you can still get for a respectable price because Jean Patou Pour Homme is like $1,000, $2,000 a bottle now.
You're kidding me.
It's insane,
Wow.
right? But
absolutely insane.
That's because he's using real Mysore sandalwood, big loads of oak moss. He's doing things that can't be done anymore in the fragrance world, right? And people today are willing to pay a premium for that because once you get into the fragrance game and you realize how bad they have kind of screwed everyone over, for lack of a better word, there's nothing else to do but go to the past and relive the days where it wasn't all about profits, it wasn't all about just the bottom line. I mean, profits are important, but it can't be the only thing. You have to love what you're doing as well. And I think a lot of these companies lost that when they got swallowed up by big conglomerates. So let me ask you a question that Rachel in the comments asked. See, this is something I didn't get to do with Russian Adam because there was no live stream. It was just me and him. But Rachel says, does Al have a favorite year in fragrances or a favorite decade?
Ramsey could best answer that. The 80s was the best decade, but I'll be more specific. It was, I'd say, about 1977. That's when Saturday Night Fever came out. I had already been dancing in the clubs for the last 7 years when this stuff came out, right? So we were laughing at John Travolta. We Italians, hey, look, it's a guy dancing with himself. After we've been dancing at these Latin clubs in the city all our lives, we see this one guy and I go, what's the big deal? So disco took off, but we had already been dancing and rancing, going out, partying. That was already going on. It was the 80s. It was sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I didn't participate in that, but that's what it was. That's what it was. That's what it was. It was just different. The drug use was terrible. I think that really hurt the whole scene. And then 81. We've talked about. I mean, we have COVID now, which was an epidemic then. HIV, when that came into being, there's a lot of things that changed in the social scene, at least in San Francisco. Yeah, it changed completely. That's why I was astounded that these 1980, 1981 fragrances were so popular at a time when this going out was kind of, everybody was really frightful to go out because of the, because
Right.
of the epidemic,
What, so back then, the biggest difference when I look back, I would say, obviously everything was a little bit more liberal, but people smoked everywhere, right? How much of that had to do, how much of that had to do with, the fragrances being so loud?
Everything.
You think so? You think they made them loud so they could cut
Ramsey,
the smoke and
Ramsey, my wife tells me not to comment on these things, but I do. I would come home and I would literally stink like nicotine, stink. Not because I was close to guys who were smoking. The women that I was dancing with, they smoked, and some of them that did smoke, I mean, it was just terrible. I mean, it was a big turnoff. But
you didn't smoke?
no, I did not. Absolutely not. I used to carry around a drink, you know, but it's not that I wasn't cheap. It's just that, I I didn't use any brain poison. I just didn't. I didn't believe in that. I thought it showed a sign of weakness. You want to get drunk, have a couple of shots, have a smoking a cigarette, then you're going to go up to Mrs. Ramsey and ask her to dance. It just made no sense to me. I saw these people. It was just, there's just people who, if you didn't dance, by the way, forget about the whole thing. I was the dancer. If you didn't dance, you didn't socialize, you know. So,
Yeah, there
you
was
know,
no internet. There was no internet back then, right? That's how you met people, as you went out. And one of the videos I watched recently was talking about how at the from the 1800s to the 1900s, anyone that you met was basically controlled by the family. If you went out and met a girl, it was your father or mother that introduced you to a girl of a family, and that family was known to your family, so you hardly ever met people outside of your little social circle. And then the nightclubs came into being, and you could go to a nightclub and meet a stranger, right? And so I think we take for granted nowadays, with the age of the internet, people used to go to bars or clubs, and that was their point, to try to meet new people. That's how you did it.
I, I, I think I was a little bit different than everyone else. When I hear these things, what is it? Panty droppers, all these comments, I'll say it in front of them on Mr. Smelly's channel. It literally makes me sick. I'm 71. I used to wear tuxedos. I used to go out. I used to buy.
Right, you told me that.
I was a clothes horse, and I'm listening to these people in their 40s now talking about booze. What does booze have to do with fragrance review?
Right.
All of you need to shut up, calm down, turn on Ramsey's channel if you want to learn about fragrances. All kidding aside, if you want to be knowledgeable, learn about fragrance notes, about the past, that's what you want to do. You're the only one who's out there who actually, you don't even deviate. You're intentional, you're consistent, and you're focused.
Thank you, Al.
Right? We both like Tom Peters.
Oh yeah, you caught that.
Why? Do you know why?
Why is that?
My wife told me to shut up, Al. I used to date his secretary, Willoughby Thorne. I
Really?
met Tom Peters. Yes, sir. I met Tom Peters years ago. You
Amazing.
look at a company, Al, you look at its president. You look at an organization, look at its president. At a government, at anything, look at what's going on. Look at look at Kuros. My friend's an infringement attorney. I go, what about this? It's changed hands 8 or 9 times. You're going to tell me this is the Kuros from 1981? I don't think so, Al. So that's the thing. I'm tired. What I get frustrated about is that it's all an approximation. This is an approximation.
What we're smelling today, it's different.
The natural substances are gone. If you're lucky, like Ramsey, to have some vintage fragrances, which is a crapshoot, but if you're lucky to have that, then you're fortunate, because the authenticity of these fragrances is gone. This right here, I got from Enchanté. I bought 8 or 9 bottles of gray flannel. All of a sudden I bought this one and I was hesitant. And this happens to be a good fragrance. It's not vintage, but it has to be pretty good. I don't know if that has to do with the manufacturing in other countries. I don't know.
Yeah,
Do you
there's a
know?
lot of variables.
Yeah. Like my friend told me, he was an infringement attorney. He just asked me, who's to say that this bottle of Fahrenheit was not bottled in India? I go, but it's made in France. He goes, I don't care. It's black. Well, yeah, but the bottling may be Chinese, but where is it being bottled at? Where do they bottle it? Where's this being bottled? You
Yeah,
know, how can I get a bottle of this from Anoush and it smells better than the $19 bottle from Ross stores? How
right.
can this bottle smell that much better?
It's the distributor, like we were talking about before they
Is the distributor
cut
the one who
into it.
bottles? Yeah, are distributors bottling the fragrance?
Right. That's a good point. I mean, there's so many variables that go into it. And then to your point, I mean, a lot of people don't talk about the fact that, if you do buy something that's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years old, it sat on the shelf. Maybe it did lose some of the top notes. Maybe it turned a bit. I mean, I have bought fragrances that have turned. It's part of when you're a vintage hunter. I mean, that's part of the game. You're taking that risk. You know what I mean? Now, if you deal with someone like a Nuge, I bought a bottle of Silver Mountain water from him, and it turned on me. I mean, when I got it, immediately I could tell. And I said, "What do you want me to do? You want me to send it back? You want me to pay half?" He goes, "No way. You're not going to pay for something that's not good." So if you deal with people who are reputable, they make situations like that right. But if you're just out there buying on YouTube, it's a risk you take. You know what I mean? It's part
It's a
of
crapshoot.
it's a crapshoot. That's it.
No.
It's a
My
crapshoot.
wife calls it mind over matter. She goes, they actually believe what they're saying. And here, let me give you an example. What do we like? Your wife, my wife, they like oud wood, correct?
They do.
Here's my oud wood, which I bought. When did I buy this, honey? How long ago?
6 weeks.
6 weeks ago. About 6 weeks ago.
Oh, you got a new bottle.
How much is left?
Jesus.
That's $670 in 7 weeks.
How much are you spraying on?
I'm not spraying anything on. I open it up. Like I told Kaylin, I never spray things on. Why would you want to spray? Why would you want to spray something on when you could put it directly on your skin?
Okay. That's another difference in the old days, right? Men's perfume, men's cologne didn't have sprayers. It was all splash, right?
Yeah, this guy is too smart. I would go to Macy's and I'd say, I want my bottle of gray flannel. And I'd always be asked the same question, Ramsey. Yes, would you like the spray or the splash? Well, I'm smart. I know that the splash, you get more liquid, but the spray, you get less liquid, but you get the spray. I'll take the splash. We never took the spray, but that's where the sprays were coming in. But yeah, I couldn't understand spraying, a guy spraying cologne. What did Aphrodite do? And Zen, what did they do? You read about them. You read about it. They used to smear it on. They used to smear on their cologne. Okay, that's what it was. It's your body chemistry. My body chemistry likes Portos and gray flannel. The body's chemistry of Ramsey loves Bellamy. It just works well. He loves it. His wife loves it.
Body
It's
chemistry is
something.
important.
It's that body chemistry. So if you say, Al, you got to get this. This is the greatest thing. Yeah, well, it just depends. On my skin, it may and it may not. So it is subjective.
This is true.
It's just coincidental that what you like, Ramsey, I mean, it's not me. I was here before you. You're bringing out this stuff, this. I got all this stuff. You know the bottle of Canon? The French Canon? I was watching your program and you came out with the bottle of Canon, and I told my wife.
Yeah, it's right here. There it is.
Okay, that is not the bottle that I ever purchased.
Right.
I purchased, the one that had the flat top, correct?
Yeah, the cap was like smushed, right? It was thin.
Okay. When you did that, Ramsey, After all, when you did that, I have not over the last 20, 30 years forgotten that I used to wear that. Not only did I wear it, Ramsey, but I told my wife while I was watching you talk about the cologne, I was practically in tears. I go, I used to collect the bottle tops. She goes, what? The tops to the bottles of the colognes. Why? Well, when I was young, I used to collect the little metal medallions from Brute. I mean, I was sick. But when I saw that bottle that you held up, I go, I completely forgot about that fragrance until Ramsey brought it up.
Well, this is in a Nuge bottle, and it actually is one of the versions that's made in Canada. So I hear there's different versions, different countries. They made this in different countries over the years because Canon, I think, was a Scandinavian firm or a Scandinavian company originally. So yes, this is thanks to a Nuge, but this is actually a great this is a great, case study into why it's important to work with somebody who you get to know and really trust, because this I actually did not buy. This came in one of my, 10 bottle hauls or whatever that Anush threw in for me.
Really?
So,
yeah, he sent me some. He would send some gifts out, some little thing. He sent me some Bijan small bottles before. Yeah, that's great. That was great.
Great.
Yeah,
it's great to make friends with people like that in the community. But there's so much information out there. There's so much that it's you can't collect them all. It's impossible to own everything. That's why you really have to hone in your taste. You have to hone in what you really like. But I would say for people who have never gone down the vintage route, it's important to smell what came before so you can smell, where people go in the future. Sometimes you can say, okay, like I'll give you an example. Yesterday, I wore this to bed for the first time ever, Preferred Stock from 1990. This was a drugstore fragrance, right?
I bought it in the drugstore at
years ago. Yes. It's a $5 fragrance.
Yes.
I mean, look at the sprayer.
Yeah, it was still good.
And the freshness of this will remind you a little bit of some of the fragrances from the 80s that had that dihydromercenol freshness, Drakkar Noir, Green Irish Tweed, Cool Water, but they did it in a way that adds some spices and some other things that I actually really liked. I really like this fragrance. If I smelled this today,
really
blindfolded, I would say this is a good fragrance, but guess what? It's discontinued. I got the older version that was made by Stetson Cologne Spray or whatever it is. And so, even in something like a cheap drugstore fragrance 35 years ago, you could find a gem. Now, you go try to buy a $10 fragrance that's out there nowadays, good luck to you. It's going to be, for lack of a better word, shite.
Yes.
That's where we're at. That's the whole point of basically this channel. And I wanted to have you on because as much as me and Rich Mitch and people like that can go on, about vintages and what we smell today, you were there, you lived it, you knew what was popular, what people wore, you were there during that time. And, that kind of you can't teach experience. You know what I mean?
No, it was, but fragrance for me, it was a big deal. It really was. It was part of me. I even told my wife last night, one time I had run out of my gray flannel, and I decided not to go out. I swear to God, the department stores were closed, and she goes, "You're kidding me." I go, "No, I had my clothes." I just said, it's not that important. I'm just like, I don't want to go out without having my cologne on. I just didn't want to do that.
It's part of you. It became part of who you were, right?
Why? Well, she's not here. This was a magnet. This right here.
I wish I knew how to make you how to make your whole thing bigger. I wish I could blow you up for everybody so you can see both instead of just me. Let's see. How do I do that? Anyone know? I'm not a live streaming professional.
No, he's not, folks, but he has a shitload of colognes. Look at this cabinet behind him.
This,
So, folks who are listening, I love Ramsey. See, when he showed his colognes, then this son of a gun, I was stuck having to watch his future videos so I could see the other half of his collection. And I go,
it's live.
damn it. Now I got to watch his next video so I can see the other half, you know. My God, you know.
Well, I pulled out some of the ones that are under lock and key. Like,
Oh my God.
did you ever have any experience with this? The original Givenchy Gentleman from 1974.
Guilty. Me, my friend Bill Griffith, this African American, we used to buy that and Aramis we used to buy.
That's good
He
stuff.
liked Aramis, I like this one. Yeah.
Mm,
Excellent. Is it good?
lovely. Fantastic. Beautiful. Let's see what else we got in the goodie pile over here. How about this? How about Joint by Aroko Baroko?
Bring me your bottle. I got 2 bottles of the 30 ml, but they were no good, Ramsey.
Oh,
When
you
I
got bad
them-
ones?
Yeah, they were bad, but I got this for my wife.
So I promised Ramsey that I wasn't going to come on, but you know what?
Welcome.
He got me turned on to the joint. Hey, good morning.
Good
He
morning.
got me turned on to the joint, and I had to just buy a backup bottle.
Ah, nice. Lovely.
From a
That's
news.
good stuff.
And you know why? At first, I wasn't turned on by it because it does have some white flower stuff in it.
Yes.
And you know, I work with patients, and a lot of them have allergies, and a lot of them are to the white flowers. So I can't wear it at work, but boy, I enjoy wearing it on the weekend.
That's good stuff. You got her
Yeah,
you, you got her a discontinued vintage fragrance, Al.
Well, I don't know. We got it from Enchante in
That's
Canada.
it.
It's very nicely packaged and everything. And boy, none of it's turned if it's vintage.
I
That's
told you
it.
you would understand.
Good stuff.
Yeah, we're going to go and party with my Portos and her joint. I mean, you know.
You'll be the best
I mean, bring
smelling
in the wife,
couple
bring in.
around.
Yeah.
All the Blue de Chanel frag guys will just get out of your way. You know what I mean? You know, all the Aventus bros will just part.
Yeah, freshies. Ooh, what's that? No.
I struggle wearing the freshies, honestly. Even in the 100-degree Texas heat.
Yeah,
I want to wear stuff like Portos.
Absolutely. Marvelous. Oh my God.
That's good stuff.
Absolutely.
So let's see. Let's do this unboxing for everybody, shall we?
What are you unboxing?
We are unboxing a couple little fragrances. So let's pull out the handy dandy unboxing knife. All right. So for my first live stream, I figured we'd make it a double, an interview and an unboxing. So here we have it. Here's the goods. Here we go. All right, first of all, 10 ml decant of Iris Pearl by Les Indemodables, which this is a Rich Mitch recommendation. This is a recommendation from my brother across the pond, and it's not a vintage, it's a niche fragrance. But I love Iris, so I'm very excited to try that. There's some random little decants that my buddy threw in here. I'll talk about those later. But the big one is this. This is Parfum d'Empire Fougère Bengal. And this is the final one from the house I think I'll get. I got Musk Tonkin, which is this animalic musk with Hyraceum, which I absolutely love. Instantly one of my top 3 musk fragrances. Queer Ottoman, which, by the way, if you love something like Roja Dove's Great Britain, but you don't want to spend insane amounts of money, this is a great option for $100 instead of $1,000. You know, I wore this to bed last night on the other arm, opposite of preferred stock, and my God, this is my kind of fragrance for a niche fragrance. And then I've got Tabac Taboo, which is this crazy immortelle tobacco, honey, fantastic. Everything I've smelled from this house is fantastic because he uses animalics in a great. I love the way he mixes in animalics. So Amber Rousse is the last one that I had, and this is like this Russian like vodka, champagne, amber thing. That's
Oh
amazing.
my God.
Everything's
Will it,
amazing.
will it
Uh,
make you growl?
I can't believe it took me this long to discover this house. And Fougere Bengal. Let's open this bad boy, shall we? Fougere Bengal. Let's see what the notes say. I haven't looked it up yet. These are blind. This is a blind buy. Fougere Bengal, 2007. And spicy fougere, Assam tea, lavender, animalic notes, hay, and tobacco with oak moss, patchouli, tonka, and vanilla. I do love a good fougere from time to time. So there you have it. Fougere Bengal. There's the mini unboxing. So I'll be talking about those more on my channel. I can't believe it took me so long to discover this house. I'm a huge fan from what I've smelled so far. And for something that's $100 to $150, the value for money from this brand is through the roof. Absolutely through the roof. So yeah, a niche unboxing on a vintage stream. What do you think of that, Al?
Great, fantastic. Have you heard of that house before?
I mean, I've heard of it, but I kind of ignored it for a little while to my detriment. I wish I would have discovered it sooner, but I'm glad I was able to track down the ones that I was able to track down because, you know, I know I give niche houses a lot of, sometimes I'm not too nice to the niche houses on my channel, but that's one that deserves some positive attention. Even with the restrictions, even with the fact he's not, you know, doing outrageous pricing, it's still amazing. So look into the house if you've never smelled any of their offerings. Don't wait like I did for a decade before you kind of discover how great they are.
Absolutely.
Remington. Preferred stock smells like Beverly Hills Red Pour Home. Oh, wish I could stick around. Well, what do you think, Al? You got anything else to share with the Young Bucks? We're over an hour, believe it or
No,
not.
well, I think maybe sometime in the future we should do another one and maybe go into you know, the attraction of fragrances. Why do the people call, you know, they always say I like the dirty scent. I never understood when they say dirty. What do they?
Hey, I figured out how to blow you up. You're big screen now, Al.
Oh, really?
Continue.
Okay. Here's what I was doing in 1988. I was oh, by the way, I was going to tell you, Aramis. Did you have you worn that regularly before? Have you ever given it a good wearing?
What's that?
Aramis.
Oh yeah, I love it. I've got a backup bottle of it. I love it so much.
Okay, that's good. Fantastic. I love your collection.
Thank you, my friend.
Yeah. I'm thinking about Portos. You know, I may pull the trigger and maybe buy another bottle sometime, but I'm going to look and see what's out there, see if there's anything that looks interesting to me. But
That's it.
That's it. Yeah.
Check out this silver I was talking about from Eigner.
I will. Can I get that any place, or do they have that? Does Ashante have that?
I don't think so. You might have to search for it. It's a little bit of a holy grail all of a sudden.
Really? Well, listen, buddy, it's been great.
It's been a pleasure, my
enjoyed it very
friend.
much, and thank you again so much, Ramsey. Thank you again so much for allowing me to come on your channel. I do appreciate it.
Thank you for being a part of the first live stream, man. You're #1 live stream.
Well, in other words, I'm part of the Ramsey tribe now.
That's it. You're blessed.
All right, buddy. Take care.
It. Good to have you, my friend. All right, guys.
Ciao,
I'm going to sign off as well. Thanks for joining, everybody. And I will see you again next time. Maybe even as soon as tomorrow. Cheers, guys.